Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Ashtotra Shatashish Madhasvain Grace Ace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jaya Grantaraj srimadbhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, fourth canto, titled Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 16, Praise of King Prithu by the Professional Reciters, and Text 18. Dehinam Atmavat Preshta Suridam Nandivardhanaha Mukta Sangha Prasangoyam Dandapanir Asadushu Dehinam Atmavat Preshta Suridam Nandivardhanaha Mukta Sangha Prasangoyam Dandapanir Asadushu Dehinam Atmavat Preshta Suridam Nandivardhanaha Mukta Sangha Prasangoyam Dandapanir Sadhushu
Dandapaya sadhusu. Dehinamapnavapresa. Suridam Nandivarna. Muktasangapa Sangoyam. Dandapaya sadhusu.
Dehinam atmavapreshta.
Dehinamapnavapresa.
Suridam nandivardhana.
Suridam Nandivarna.
Muktasango prasangoyam.
Muktasangapa Sangoyam.
Dandapani sarsu.
Dandapaya sadhusu. Dehinamapnavapresa. Suridam Nandivarna. Muktasangapa Sangoyam. Dandapaya sadhusu. Dehinamapnavapresa. Suridam Nandivarna. Muktasangapa Sangoyam. Dandapaya sadhusu.
All right, word by word. Dehinam, to all living entities having a body. Atmavat, as himself. Preshtaha, considering dear. Sududam, of his friends. Nandivardhanaha, increasing pleasures. Mukta Sangha, with persons devoid of all material contamination. Prasangaha, intimately associated. Ayam, this king. Dandapanihi, a chastising hand. The sadhushu, to the criminals. Translation. The king will consider all embodied living entities as dear as his own self, and he will always be increasing the pleasures of his friends. He will intimately associate with liberated persons, and he will be a chastising hand to all impious persons. Purport. The word Dehinam refers to those who are embodied. The living entities are embodied in different forms, which number 8,400,000 species. All of these were treated by the king in the same way he would treat himself. In this age, however, so-called kings and presidents do not treat all their living entities as their own self. Most of them are meat-eaters, and even though they may not be meat-eaters and may pose themselves to be very religious and pious, they still allow cow slaughter within their state. Such sinful heads of state cannot actually be popular at any time. Another significant word in this verse is Mukta Sangha Prasangaha, which indicates that the king was always associating with liberated persons. Okay. Om Meganitivanandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshadhanmilitam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karidavachalam Pungam Langayate Gadim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Niditadinam Vancha Kapadribhishta Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. The king will consider all embodied living entities as dear as his own self, and he will always be increasing the pleasures of his friends. He will intimately associate with liberated persons, and he will be a chastising hand to all impious persons. Take a look. So Srila Prabhupada, he explains in the Krishna book, I believe it's the introduction, he says that there's 3 categories of men. Prabhupada, a lot of times he says men, not people, but so we'll say 3 categories of people, 3 categories of men. He says that there's those who are conditioned. He says that those who are trying to become liberated, and he said those who are liberated. And he said that the pastimes of Krishna will attract all 3 categories of people. He said they'll attract the conditioned souls, they'll attract those who are trying to be liberated, and they'll attract those who are liberated. And interesting enough is Prabhupada, he says that in the introduction, he mentions the Krishna's pastimes specifically with the gopis, and he says, "Oh, that will be very attractive even for a conditioned person." And this is quite amazing because so throughout the Bhagavatam, throughout the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and throughout Srila Prabhupada's lectures and conversations and morning walks and over and over and over again, Prabhupada would say that you shouldn't just jump to the 10th canto. You shouldn't jump to the 10th canto and specifically you shouldn't jump to the section of the Rasa Leela trying to understand Krishna's pastimes with the gopis. Because if a person does that, they won't actually understand. They'll take it as something ordinary, mundane, boy and girl relationship within this world. Based on lust. They won't understand. So although Prabhupada said that, still he says in the introduction that the conditioned persons will be very attracted to Krishna's pastimes with the gopis. It's quite amazing. And although Srila Prabhupada said that over and over and over and over again, nonetheless, what did he do? What he did something that was never done he did so many things that were never done in the history of humankind as we know it. But one of the very interesting things he did was he printed the 10th canto, practically speaking. It says it's the summary study, which it is the summary study, but in many ways, practically speaking, it's a verse-by-verse translation. It practically covers everything within the 10th canto. And what did he do? He said, he printed it and he said, he didn't just say, okay, this is for our devotees, right? This is for our, our brahmacharis and our initiated devotees. We'll keep it in our gift shop and we'll sell it to people who come to the temple or something. But what did he do? He said, mass distribute it. Mass distribute it. Print thousands of them. We're still doing that. Print thousands and distribute. So that's absolutely unique in history to do such a thing. And again, after saying so many times, don't jump to the 10th canto, but practically speaking, it's okay, just distribute it, widely distribute it, mass distribute it. So Prabhupada's expertise is that while doing this summary study of the Krishna book, he very expertly translated it or summarized it in such a way that people cannot become confused. Of course, people could always become confused, but he translated it in such a way that it's hard to become confused. He uses Supreme Personality of Godhead, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Supreme Personality of Godhead, probably so many, he used it so many times in Krishna book. Yeah, the title of the book is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So to understand the pastimes, or to meditate on the pastimes, or hear about the pastimes from an authority such as Srila Prabhupada, then this is bona fide, this is authentic, this is good. And it says that by such hearing, actually the contamination within one's heart will be cleansed. And specifically it says what is that called again? The shrid, the disease of the heart. Yeah, yeah, the knots in the heart. The disease of the heart will be cured. Yeah, rogam. Yeah, the disease of the heart will be cured by hearing from authoritative sources these pastimes. Now, of course, Prabhupada said that if by hearing these pastimes, one is agitated, or one is, one becomes disturbed, lusty in a lustful way, then obviously that's indication that they shouldn't continue. That means they should stop and they should read about Krishna, I don't know, killing Aghasur or something like that. But my point is that this is an amazing thing what Prabhupada did. He just said, mass distribute 10th canto, practically the Krishna book, summary study. So Krishna consciousness is attractive for all. But he goes on to say that those who are killers of the self, pashugnat, those who are killers of the self, and he says that, or killers of animals. So killers of animals, and also persons who are killing themselves, spiritual suicide, which means you can't really kill the soul, but people are acting in such a foolish, degraded, horrible way that they are committing violence upon their spiritual life. Those personalities, they cannot appreciate and they won't take interest in Krishna's pastimes. So, practically speaking, what does this mean for us? It means that we have to eliminate the lower modes of material nature from our lives. It's not just from our consciousness, because, of course from our consciousness, and then everything else springs. For example, a particular person's consciousness is manifested in their environment. You go into somebody's home who is deeply in the mode of ignorance, and it is expressed in their environment in terms of smells and uncleanliness and just horrible. And you go into somebody's environment who's in the mode of passion, and it's expressed. In the mode of goodness, it's expressed. It's all expressed externally, whatever is going on internally. So we have to try to eliminate these lower modes from our consciousness, and also our environment. But yeah, it starts, within ourselves. Or else, devotees may not obviously be in the category of, animal killers. There's Garuda. Garuda, you know what Garuda has for his prasadam? Or he has fish, right? So there's snakes, snakes. So there's Garuda, but generally devotees aren't, no meat eating, right? That is usually not a problem, but this other side, killers of themselves, means committing spiritual suicide. So that may not be completely fully manifested within our lives at present, obviously, because we're all sitting here, we're discussing the srimadbhagavatam, we're chanting Hare Krishna, doing so many things. But the danger is sometimes that over time, we may fall in the category of killers of the self, which, in other words, we may develop suicidal tendencies, spiritual suicidal tendencies. And this comes from bad association or asat sangha, which is fully available within this world nowadays. It's the availability of asat sangha has never been as great as right now. But on the positive side, the availability of satsanga, means association with devotees and Krishna conscious movement, hasn't been as available as it is now as well. So the main, you could say, question that we have to ask ourselves is that, okay, well, what association do I want to take? Do I want to take the asatsanga, the bad association, or do I want to take the satsanga, the good association? So we want to take the satsanga, the good association. And not gradually fall into the rut of killers of the self. Means hedonistic, materialistic, selfish personalities. We don't want to do that. So yeah, we want to take association of devotees, or the association of devotees is of the utmost importance. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada, he created the International Society for Krishna Consciousness for the reason of creating a society in which it is populated with devotees. Why? So they could give their good association to each other and also give their good association to the world. So this is extremely important because, again, bad association has never been more available at this time. So it's, you could say, like a war, and yeah, it is a war, and Srila Prabhupada would say that many times. It's a war on the illusory energy. It's a war with the materialistic propaganda of the society. So, and what is it a war? It's a war on people's attention. It's a war on people's consciousness. So it's the duties of, it's the duty of the preachers. It's the duty of the teachers. It's the duty of the Brahmins. It's the duty of the devotees to provide their association to people who need it, which is everybody, and in this way become a you could say an instrument for Krishna, and become a source of solving the problem, rather of just being part of the problem, right? They have a saying that you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. So we want to be part of the solution. We don't want to be part of the problem. So the problem is the degradation of Kali Yuga. So we want to be a part of the solution, which means the upliftment of Kali Yuga. So both are going on simultaneously. There's degradation of Kali Yuga happening day by day, and then there's devotees trying to uplift the residents of Kali Yuga, uplift themselves and uplift the residents of Kali Yuga. So we want to be on the good side, you could say, and that we want to, again, be a source of solving the problem. And again, I mean, this always comes back to our personal spiritual practices. Therefore, we want to be strong in our spiritual practices of chanting Hare Krishna and following the principles and associating with devotees and so on. Because by such strength, or by following one's particular duties of their particular ashram, then one will actually have the power, because power comes from following the principles of Dharma. That's how power comes. And we need power. After all, we're trying to spread Krishna consciousness. And who could spread Krishna consciousness? What does it say? Krishna Vina, right? One who, Krishna Shakti Vina, one who has empowerment from Krishna, they could spread Krishna consciousness. Other people can't. It's impossible. So where does that power come from? Does it just just come from nowhere? Nothing comes from nowhere. Nothing doesn't exist in the first place. Something's... So where does it come from? Does the spiritual master just, take out, gets his danda and, knocks us on our head, or I see the light, or sometimes Sonas Radhanath Swami was here yesterday. Sometimes what he does with younger devotees and his disciples, this and that, I've seen him, he kind of goes like this on their forehead, kind of, flicks their forehead, and, he smiles, and it's like a, affectionate thing. Or Indrumna Swami, sometimes I've seen what he does, he'll go like this with the brahmacharis, affectionately, He'll kind of, go like this, or he'll, go like this in your forehead, affectionately. So, yes, those are blessings, no doubt, nice devotees, advanced devotees. But is that good enough? Well, I don't know, depends, I guess, how you look at it. But in terms of empowerment, practically speaking, there has to be more done on the part of the person who's trying to get the mercy to be empowered, the recipient of the mercy. And that translates practically into following the instructions of the spiritual master, which means following one's duty, following the principles of Dharma, the principles of religion, the principles of Krishna consciousness. And if one does that, then one will have the power to preach, one will have the power to teach, one will have the power to spread Krishna consciousness. And to the degree that one doesn't do that, to the degree that one doesn't follow the principles of their ashram, one doesn't follow their principles of their, one doesn't do what they're supposed to do, then it will be that difficult to inspire people, to preach, to engage in Krishna consciousness in general. So, therefore, what is King Prithu's example here? King Prithu's example is that he intimately associated with liberated persons and was a chastising hand to all impious persons. So, the benefit of associating with liberated persons is available to us today. Of course, in the most obvious way, in the form of Srila Prabhupada's books. He says, the best of me is in my books. And what to speak of all the lectures, Srila Prabhupada lectures, morning walks, conversations, so much information Srila Prabhupada, or so much preaching Srila Prabhupada did for us, for the benefit of us. And this we should be very happy about, because, if you analyze some of the world religions of today, their leaders actually didn't leave that much. Teachings. Like Buddha, he didn't leave that much. And Jesus Christ, he didn't leave that much. But Srila Prabhupada, look how much he left. The scholars have a hard time going through all of his information, and even devotees have a hard time going through all of the lectures, morning walks, conversations, books. It's a lot to go through. So we should be very happy, and Prabhupada made everything very clear. Also, this association of liberated persons comes primarily in the form of Srila Prabhupada's books and also our Acharya's teachings. So we should be very enlivened, enthused, interested in associating with such personalities such as Srila Prabhupada. We should be very happy and grateful to do that. And one devotee was saying, he was saying that, sometimes people lament that, oh, well, I wish I could have met Prabhupada, or I wish I could have met Rupa Goswami, or something like that, right? There's so many wonderful personalities we could think of that we maybe, that we would really like to meet. So this devotee was saying that, I suspect that if Rupa Goswami had a flight into to the airport, so we could think of Rupa Goswami was flying into the SanDiego airport, everybody would be very enthusiastic to greet him. They would come and offer their respects and obeisances and garlands and prayers and all that, glorification, and then bring him to the temple, hear from him, serve him. So the idea is that that was being explained was that, yeah, he's there. He's in the form of his books. You could associate with him today. So, why? Because the soul, especially what to speak of the great souls, they're not bound up by time and place and all these. Their associations readily available for anybody who's interested. So this is actually the way in which we are, that practically speaking, which we become successful. Some people say, "Oh well, we could become successful solely and wholly by chanting Hare Krishna." Yes, that's true, and by hearing Bhagavatam and doing so many other things. Yes, this is all true. But really, the message of the Bhagavatam, if it's not given by a devotee, what value, what power does it have? Actually, it has opposite, like the milk touched by the lips of a serpent. It's kirtan, same thing. Kirtan, everything, prasadam, everything really has to be touched by a devotee. And the better the devotee, the better the effect on our consciousness. So really what I'm saying is that the main way in which we make advancement is by this association of devotees. And this brings to life the processes of devotional service. So we could take great inspiration from the Bhagavatam, we should, and that it's teaching us what to do and what not to do. This is extremely valuable, to know what not to do and what to do. What not to do and what to do. It's extremely valuable. Because most people, they don't know what to do and what not to do. They don't really know. So again, I said this the other day, but at least we know what to do. We may not do it all the time, but at least we know. And we know what not to do. So we're extremely fortunate in that regard. So now that we know, at least theoretically, and of course we have our realizations, so we should try to educate people to adopt. I mean, depending on who Prabhupada would meet, he would preach differently. So sometimes Prabhupada would encourage people on a basic platform too. Well, at least become vegetarian. Do something good with them. Don't just eat animals. At least become vegetarian. So depending on who we're preaching to, we could say different things. But in general, encourage them to be more sattvic and to somehow introduce the practices of Krishna consciousness. And to educate people. I mean, like Prabhupada said that most people are actually innocent. Most people are innocent. They're not just out and out, full-on asuric, demonic people. They're innocent, but they're misguided. He said most people are like that. So if most people are like that, what does that mean practically? It means that if they are given good association, if they are given reasons why they should engage in Krishna consciousness, they're convinced of certain things, like becoming vegetarian and so on, they'll actually do it. They'll actually change their lives. But that association has to be given to them, or else, they're just, misguided. They're just misguided and directed by a bunch of materialistic propaganda and so on, and they don't really have a chance of changing their lives. So yeah, we should try to our best to take the association of liberated persons, and then after taking the association of liberated persons, whether we're liberated or not, doesn't really matter, but we should try to introduce people to liberated persons, and specifically introduce people to Srila Prabhupada. Because the fact is that by people being introduced to Srila Prabhupada, and if they take advantage of that association and so on, then all of their problems in life are solved. So this should be our purpose in life, that we want to take association of devotees and Prabhupada and then introduce people to Prabhupada. And practically speaking, that's what our spiritual masters, of course there's Prabhupada disciples, but those of us who aren't Prabhupada disciples, our spiritual master is introducing us to Srila Prabhupada, and that's actually what they're doing throughout their life. That's the purpose of their life. They're introducing people to Srila Prabhupada. And the glory of being a disciple is that they give us their service. They let us help them in their service. And what is their service? Introducing these people to Srila Prabhupada. So we are given the same purpose. So it's a disciplic succession of family business, right? Introducing the Prabhupada. And, that's our book distribution. That's what it means. What are we doing practically in book distribution? We're introducing people to Srila Prabhupada, saying, this is Srila Prabhupada. Here's his picture. Here's his book. Here you go. Here's Srila Prabhupada. And then, people have a chance of actually doing something valuable with their time and life. So, does anyone have any? Yes.
I have a question to comment. Just on that last point, Ganapati Maharaj, Prabhupada disciple, he preaches mostly in Arizona and,
He goes to Grand Canyon too, right?
That's my point. He sets up at the Grand Canyon, and he was telling me the other day, just picture in your mind the average American tourist, overweight, sunburn, shorts, cap on, 45 years old, going bald. Guy goes by with his similar wife, does a double take, stops at the book table and tells his wife, "That's him! That's him!" Ganapati Maharaj was interested. What does that mean? And he told Ganapati Maharaj that for the last 3 or 4 years, an unknown man had been coming to him in a dream and saying, "Read my books." And he could never find the books or couldn't figure out who the man was. And when he walked by the book table, it was Srila Prabhupada. So just like you're saying, that's uniquely mystical. There's a lady, when New Vrindavan went off the rails, because it was way out there for a while, they still had those tours that came.
Yeah.
There was a lady, typical thing, mid-America, average lady, heard Prabhupada sitting on the Vyasasana telling, "Take my shoes." She's never stolen anything in her life. It's a long story. She actually took Prabhupada's shoes. They always thought a devotee took them. And, when New Vrindavan got Radhanath Maharaj's great service, reconnected, Rabindra Sarup Prabhu reconnected New Vrindavan, Prabhupada came to her again and said, "You can take them back now." And she mailed the shoes back. So just like you're saying, introducing people to Srila Prabhupada, it's real, it happens, it changes people's lives. Okay, so I had a question though.
Okay.
You were talking about, and it's a bit of a stump the Swami question, so, but people think this sometimes. Okay, you said just, do your duty according to your ashram,
Yeah.
and you'll obtain perfection. Well, but Krishna says at the end of Bhagavad Gita, give up all dharma and duty. So, I'm just going to do as I'm inspired and as I think, and, all these dry duties as a brahmachari or, grihastha, forget it. I'm giving it all up, as Krishna says at the end of Gita.
Yeah. Yeah, there's many ways of interpreting the Bhagavad Gita. Or seeing the Bhagavad Gita from different perspectives, right? Everybody has different perspectives. So, like Radhanath Swami was here, and he was saying how his friend Gary, he met his friend Gary's mother. She was 95 or whatever, and how do you like the book? She said, I loved it. I loved it. And she, yeah, what do you like about it? Well, it was all about my son, but it wasn't about his son. Anyway, so different perspectives people have. So. But yeah, we see everything in the light of, or in the, it's not just like Shastra Chakshu, so it means seeing through the eyes of the scripture. We see that world through the eyes of the scripture. But before that, you could say happens, we see things through the mercy or through the vision that our spiritual teachers give us. So, in other words, they make things very clear, the acharyas, and one has to in order to understand the Bhagavad Gita, one has to understand it in the disciplic succession. Not that just anybody could understand Bhagavad Gita. And also Bhakti Amama Janati, by engaging in devotional service, you could understand Krishna to some degree. So our spiritual teachers, like for example, in more recent times, Srila Prabhupada, and specifically I was thinking of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he himself, he was a brahmachari, and then he accepted sannyas, and one of the, you could say, explanations and reasons and so on is that said a lot of the times traditionally Vaishnavas, they would just put on the dress of a Babaji. They would just go to Vrindavan and chant Hare Krishna and just renounce the world. And so he would say, so the idea is that out of humility he accepted sannyas because that's considered lower than a Babaji. Like the 6 Goswamis, it's a higher position, you could say, and sannyas is a lower position for preaching within the varnashram system. So so the varnashram system's there because people aren't liberated. If people were liberated, then chanting Hare, go under a tree and chant Hare Krishna, that's it. You don't need anything else. But because people aren't like that, and also because we have a preaching mission, I mean, who will come if we're having Dravida Prabhu's having Bhagavad Gita class outside of under a tree or something? Who's going to come? Or whatever, we're having Bhagavatam, who's going to come? Anyways, that's Sunday feast, right? Who will come if it's under a tree? So for preaching purposes, we have organization, and we have varnashram and all these things. And again, we're not liberated. Like Prabhupada said, that actually it's sufficient just to chant, it's enough just to chant Hare Krishna, but because you can't do that, I have to rack my brain to come up with so many things to keep you busy. So, and that quote, like Shivaram Swami, His Holiness Shivaram Swami wrote recently he writes a lot, but he something about Varnashram, and there's a quote there by Prabhupada, and something to the degree that, okay, you're saying you don't need Varnashram, then why are you falling down? Why are you having difficulties? So Varnashram is a way in which people could be engaged practically according to their psychophysical nature and material desires and so on, that they could properly engage in Krishna consciousness. So when Krishna says in the end of the Bhagavad Gita, just surrender all, give up all types of right of religion, he's not really referring to that, according to what Prabhupada says. And now people may not accept what Prabhupada says, but that's their problem.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Marge, I don't know if you heard, but recently Ganapati Swami, he was in Grand Canyon, and he was book distribution like within the last few weeks, and some woman was there, and he was very friendly. Oh, here, here's a book, this and that. So the woman said, "Oh, my son, he's a monk in SanDiego." And then Ganapati Swami says, "Oh, really? Where? What temple in SanDiego?" And then the woman says, "Oh, well, the temple in Pacific Beach, right next to the beach." He's referring to this temple. And he goes, "Oh, really?" And then he gives her a book, she gives a donation. So it was one of the brahmacharis here. And it was Jamal.
Oh, that's sweet.
She gave a donation and took a book, Bhagavad Gita. And apparently, so it's in Jamal's house in Arizona. Or his parents' house in Arizona. So Phoenix. It's great.
They say that you cannot have a good son unless you have a very good mother.
Yeah. So you have a question or
I just wanted to share a Sankirtan story in regards to sharing Prabhupada. When I first started traveling with Bhrigupati last fall, his way of presenting the books was really easy. It was, you've heard of stress? Okay, yeah. This is he said, these books help you get free from stress. And then you just show him a picture of Prabhupada. This is my teacher, and people leave a donation. That's all he'd say. And then in December, when I was here for December nights, we had this like whole fiasco happen where like, I think like 12 cases or 15 cases of our books got taken by the park when we were trying to bring more cases of books. And they went missing all weekend basically. And so we went back with Krishna books and Nectar of Devotions. We had like 5 cases each because we were expecting. The park did. Yeah, and so they went missing. We got back with these Krishna books and Nectar of Devotions. And we're like, well, we don't really have the energy to go look for the books right now. We need to set up. There's a whole other thing that took place. But anyways, Ananda Kirtan and I were forced to just distribute only Krishna book and Nectar of Devotions. And book distributors nowadays will say those are the 2 most difficult books to explain to people. And so I didn't know what I was going to do. So I just took shelter at Brigupati's line. And all the books went out. Every single Nectar of Devotion, every single Krishna book went out that night. And this was just amazing, just showing people the picture of Prabhupada. And there's a sense that they can sense that this is a very saintly person, especially with Spanish people. Whenever I'm in Spanish areas, I always say, escrito por un santo, which means this book was written by a saint. And I show them a picture of Prabhupada, and everyone becomes touched. They can sense, okay, this is someone who's very genuine.
Yeah, that December nights is great. It's like 3 days. Yeah, it's wonderful. We did Harinam, remember? Yeah, that was great. So many people that were like they're really in the holiday mood, ready to take books. Yeah. 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 Yeah, that was good. All right. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki